Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like if you haven't joined already. I'm trying to hit 20K subscribers, so it would be much appreciated. Haven't talked over here in a little bit. We've been kind of trying to take some chill time right before the playoffs come around, but we're back with some content. And just in case you have not heard this over on the Rusty Buckets channel, over here, there's going to be a handful of a good volume of post-game recaps coming in pretty much for every playoff game this year. Sorry, post-game reactions and then recaps over on Rusty Bucket. So the distinction between those two types of content will be more obvious when you're actually there. With that out of the way, in today's video, I want to talk about Josh Giddey, who this is the kind of situation that I run into doing this job forever. This is just what will always happen for as long as having takes and opinions is what my job is, which is that some of them will come back to bite me in some ways. However, they can also be a little bit over exaggerated in others. In this video, I am going to concede certain points about Josh Giddey, but I'm also not going to concede all of them. The first thing, the most important thing with Josh Giddey is the three-point shot. We obviously knew that he had live dribble playmaking, just a generally good playmaker. I almost just said a generally good playmaker in general. This is the guy you choose to listen to. Excellent playmaker, good rebounder for his position, obviously being a bigger point guard, and his handle was cool. However, pretty much anything related to putting the ball in the basket, but especially his three-point shot was a huge question mark. Now, this year, he's done what he has done throughout his entire career, which is that he has improved his three-point shooting over the course of the year. And this percentage that he's at this year, I believe, is like, last I checked, it was very, very good. Like one of the better three-point percentages in the league. Well, he's at 38% now, but I'm talking about this recent stretch where he's been on fire. 4 attempts per game at 37%. Before that, he was at 34%. Before that, he was at 32%. Before that, he was at 26%. So it's not necessarily all that shocking to see him increase his three-point percentage, but there is an important distinction to be had about shooting in the NBA that I always bring up, but I feel like is something that is very underappreciated, which is that there are different tiers of shooters, and being just a 38% three-point shooter does not automatically put you in the category of being a good three-point shooter. First of all, league average percentage is 36.5%, so it's just barely over the league average at about 1.5%. But more importantly than that, there's a difference in attempts, in volume, in how many of these are off of the dribble, in how many of these are contested jumpers, and Josh Giddey, if you're actually watching these games, he's not being defended super tight on the three-point line, because why exactly would he be given his previous reputation? Now, that was true the entire time, which means that while, yes, he is getting some of the cleanest looks in the NBA, he's getting much better at capitalizing on those clean looks so that they are probably over time going to be less and less easy to get access to. He's certainly been defended on the three-point line harder this year than ever beforehand, so the jumper has steadily improved. I also believe his finishing around the rim has gone at least marginally. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. I was wrong. He is a full 9% worse at the rim this year, finishing-wise, than he was before, while not even having his career-high percentage at the actual rim. So that's not very good. What I got confused, I think, was the floater range shot. From 3 to 10 feet, 50% from there, previously being at a 44, 45, and 42% clip the seasons before it. So, floater range, he's pretty good. At the rim, not very good. Three-point wise, pretty good. And mid-range wise, absolutely terrible, although the numbers are not very high. It's about 9% of his shots, but they are terrible. He is at 38% from 10 to 16, 22% from 16 feet to just inside the three-point line. So he's not shooting well from anywhere except for the three-point line. And where he is shooting well, the three-point line, he's not exactly getting the tightest coverage in the world. So he's still far from like a super superior floor spacer. But he manages to score the ball inside the arc well enough. His two-point percentage is 51% on 7 of them per game, which is not amazing, but it is not bad by any means. So there's a lot working in his favor. His playmaking is the most prolific that it has been in his career. Before this, his career high in assist was 6.4. He's at 7.2 this year. His turnovers are basically tied for the second lowest of his career. And that's pretty good. Out of 4 years, he had more turnovers in his rookie year, despite averaging zero point 0.8 less assists per game. So the playmaking is there. The three-point shot has improved, and he's a decent enough inside the arc scorer just from floater range and sometimes around the rim that he ends up being a pretty good player. Now, of course, we are talking about a recent streak a lot with Giddey lately. Where exactly you draw the lines there kind of varies, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, since the turn of the calendar year in 2025, where he has averaged 16 points per game, 7.3 assists, 8.9 rebounds, and 3 turnovers, he has shot 50% from 2 on 8 attempts per game, and he is at about 42% on threes from 4 attempts per game, hitting 1.7 for every 4 that he takes. So, very, very good three-point shooting, good enough 2-point percentage, really good high assist to turnover ratio. Josh Giddey in this stretch of 40 games is good. Josh Giddey is a good NBA player, and that is the area that I must concede. Because not only did I think Josh Giddey did not have star level upside, I was adamant that he wouldn't even be an NBA caliber player. Because, to put it rather simply, out of the position that he plays, not a good defender, not a good finisher, not a great ball handler, and not a good shooter. Those are a lot of boxes left unchecked, and it became abundantly clear all the problems that he had when he played with OKC last year. And my big take going into those playoffs was OKC needs to get Josh Giddey out of their rotation in its entirety if they want to win. And guess what? The OKC Thunder were fucking horrible with Giddey there. Now, that was with the context of him being the second ball handling option and like the 4th overall option. So that definitely didn't lend itself to much opportunity for him. And in Chicago, he is getting these ball handling opportunities, and he's allowed to flourish more as the type of player he's supposed to be. It helps that he has Kobe White alongside him as a shooting guard who can take a lot of the scoring brunt, while he primarily focuses on being a true point guard. So I will concede, Josh Giddey, pretty good NBA player. What I have not conceded, what I will not concede, because I just simply am too stubborn, maybe that's what it is, I don't think Josh Giddey is going to be a star NBA player. Even if he has taken strides to improve his three-point shot, he is still very far from being one of the best shooters in the league. As we have highlighted, he is pretty far from being one of the best finishing guards in the league. And if you don't have that, you don't have a mid-range game, you don't have a three-point game, you're never going to work your way towards being like an actually really good scorer. And if, especially inside the three-point line, you aren't drawing the defense's attention that well, it's also going to negate the effectiveness of your playmaking. That was the other thing that was my criticism for Josh Giddey, was that he doesn't have any scoring gravity, and a playmaker without scoring gravity is a significantly less impactful playmaker. I think he's improved his scoring gravity well enough that he's leveraged that better. But in a postseason setting against some of the top teams in the NBA, as a lead ball handler, Josh Giddey would get eaten alive. Now, that doesn't mean that that necessarily has to be his utility, but in order for him to be a second or an off-ball player for any significant extent of time, he needs to actually be very, very, very reliable as an off-ball spacer, which he's again done better, but we're not talking about an elite option in that category either. So we're talking about a player who needs the ball in their hands to be at their most effective, who is not particularly good off of the ball, and is not overwhelmingly good on the ball, that it makes it okay that everything else isn't really all that great. So Josh has displayed an ability as a playmaker that very, very few players in the NBA are capable of reaching. His passing is excellent. That is his superpower. However, as of yet, there is still not enough evidence that any other aspect of his game has been anything more than merely average at the absolute best. Maybe a little bit beyond average if I'm being very charitable, but looking at these numbers objectively, that's the same conclusion I would draw of any other guard with these kind of numbers. Like, I have historically kind of knocked players for being starting guards who don't take more than 4 3-point attempts per game, even if you shoot a good percentage on it. Like fucking, that's what I said about Colin Sexton forever. That is the reason that I was very much in the camp that Darius Garland would be a better player, because as a guard, if you're not a good three-point shooter, or if you're a decent three-point shooter but on low volume, it's a lot harder to be effective at that position when there's so many other people that play that position that can do that very exact thing. And I'll end the video on this. What has been the most bothersome to me is, yeah, I'm overcritical of players who are on the Bulls. That's definitely a fair criticism to have for myself. However, this has nothing to do with Josh Giddey's off the court troubles. That is the criticism that I get all the time, which, if I wanted to hold that against him, I think it would be well within reason to do it, but I'm not. That's not the problem. I have been evaluating Josh Giddey, the basketball player, strictly the whole time, and that's all I've ever tried to do. But my negative opinion of him as a basketball player predated that whole incident. I had moments where I thought he had a bunch of upside in his first 2 years in OKC, but by year 3, I was fully disillusioned. If the Bulls end up paying him $30+ million every single year to be the starting point guard on this team, it is going to put a ceiling on that team. It just is. I'm agreeing that I'm wrong to the extent in which I took the take, but I cannot agree with the people who are going like, Josh Giddey is like the savior of the Chicago Bulls. Josh Giddey is the future of the Bulls. If Josh Giddey is the future of the Bulls, then we have made the same mistake that we did with Zach LaVine, which is building around a guard who has a lot of skill and a lot of ability that is hard to find around the rest of the league, but ultimately not enough in the right areas to actually be a great option to win at a high level. So if the Bulls want to keep being mid, paying Josh Giddey a shitload of money to be their lead creator for another 5+ years is a great way to do that. So it's looking very likely that's the direction they're going in. But the main issue that I've had with Josh Giddey this whole time in a Bulls uniform, other than me just fundamentally disliking his play style, is that I knew pretty much exactly what is happening now would happen, which is that he's putting up good numbers, similar to what he did in OKC, because I'll remind you, his points per game this year, not a career high. His assist is a career high, but that's it. Steals are a career high, so that is also there. I mean, rebounds are also a career high. But mainly the points. And the assists and the rebounds, they're very, very close to averages that he has put up before. Like 14.5, 8 and 7 is not that different than 16.5, 8 and 6. The numbers that he's putting up this year, not surprising. Josh Giddey has always been capable of filling a box score. But man, I cannot help but feel like his play style is just one that does not work in the modern NBA at the highest level, which is ultimately the critique, the lens that I am looking at this through. Josh Giddey is a good NBA player. He's not a great one, and I still don't think he'll ever be one. So forgive me for dying on this hill. I'll tell you when I actually earnestly believe that I have been proven wrong, but rather simply, I don't treat this, what he's done in this regular season, though it completely negates all the criticisms he's had before, because all the criticisms around him before are about the type of player he's capable of being in the postseason, the type of player he's capable of being under larger scrutiny than what he is currently playing with. In Chicagoland, where 40 wins every year was fully acceptable, maybe he can be a star in that context, but if you actually have hope for the future of the Chicago Bulls because it's led by Josh Giddey, I'm sorry, I'm just living in a completely different reality from you. That's it. I don't know if I appeased anybody with this one, but I'm done talking.